All right. good morning, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're joining us from. Coach Kevin Sparks here, and let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to go ahead and do is share my screen with you and share some things I think will be helpful for you. First thing I want to go ahead and share with you is we have a Facebook group that coincides with this meetup, and it has the same name. So that's an easy way to come find us. It's got the same name: Live Law of Attraction, Money, Wealth, and Success Training. So if you were to type that into facebook.com into search, you will find us. Feel free to come join us. We'd love to have you. The other way you can come find us is you can go directly to, let me highlight this here, facebook.com/groups/money manifesting coach as one word. I'm going to go ahead and copy this really quickly and post this in the link to the Facebook group into chat right here for everybody to see. All right, there you go. And so why would you want to join the Facebook group in addition to participating in the Zoom meetings? Well, first of all, what we do, as long as I remember to hit the record button, which I typically do, I will go ahead and post the recordings of the previous meetings. So we just started this particular group. I've done this before, back in early November for about 3.5 months. I ran a group just like this. It was very successful, had a lot of fun. People enjoyed it. Some even chose to become clients of mine, which was kind of cool. But we ran that successfully, and this format we're doing pretty much the same because it works so well. But let's say if you're here today and you like something that's said and you want to go back and review it. Well, typically within 24 to 48 hours, we'll go ahead and get that posted into the Facebook group. So you'll have the recording of it. So you can review anything you like. Well, here's another thing for you. Let's say, for instance, that you're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. For some reason, you don't make it on Thursday and you're here on Friday and you miss something. Well, you can go back and review that. Okay. Let me ask a favor of everybody for the moment, and then there'll be an appropriate time to come off mute. But if you're not muted, would you go ahead and mute yourself for now? And then there will definitely be plenty of opportunity for you guys to, we're going to ask for comments and even questions and everything and interact with each other. But for right now, for purpose of sound, please go ahead and mute yourselves if you're unmuted. Okay. And I definitely hear sound. I just didn't want to have to go chase you guys down to find you. But maybe I'm going to have to do that to see who's unmuted right now. Let's see. Okay, looks like everybody got themselves muted again. Perfect. All right. So next thing I want to share with you is we are in the process. We started 2 days ago with this particular meetup group, okay? And we are in the process of going through some material right now. I want to share with you what it is and tell you how to get a copy of it for yourself for free, okay? We're currently in the process of going through a book called The Science of Getting Rich. It was written by Wallace Wattles. It was originally published in 1910. So obviously that was quite a while ago, okay? So this is actually a public domain work. And I happen to own it in paperback. I own it on Kindle. I own it on Audible. So I own it in every way you could possibly think of. I even own it as a seminar that was put together originally by Bob Proctor, and then I put together seminars of my own around it. But anyhow, I want to show you where you can go ahead and get a copy. So remember here that we were on page 14. That's where we stopped yesterday. And I want to show you how to get your own copy. All I did to get a free copy of it and find one for you guys that I think is a good one so you can follow along is I just went to Google and typed in The Science of Getting Rich PDF. Once I did that, organically, the first thing that popped up, it may or may not be the first one for you. It was for me and probably will be because of the popularity of this website. But right here, I saw the Science of Getting Rich dash The Secret. And I looked above and said, okay, that's thesecret.tv. I know who owns that website. Okay, it's Rhonda Byrne. Byrne is actually the creator of the movie and the book, The Secret. So I knew that that was a good place to go. All I did was click on it, and I'm showing you I'm doing the exact same thing. I went ahead and clicked on it, and it opened up, abracadabra, and there it is. So here's the cool thing. I didn't really have to put in any information or anything, and I went ahead and hit the download button, and I've saved it, so I've got a copy to take around with me when I'm offline. But anyhow, you can do the same thing if you like. I'm going to put us back to the page that we're on. Let's see, 14. I'm going to blow it up a bit so that you guys can see this better. Let's give it plenty of, so you can see it on my screen better anyhow, or on your screen. Let's put it there in the middle-ish. Okay, so this is where we left off yesterday, but let me tell you why we're going through this particular work right now. Rhonda Byrne, The Secret, well, that's one reason, okay. Rhonda Byrne was given the book, The Science of Getting Rich, by her daughter. The Science of Getting Rich had such an impact on her. That's what got Rhonda Byrne starting to study the law of attraction. And that was the impetus for creating the movie, The Secret, and then taking the movie, The Secret, and basically transcribing it into the book, The Secret. So it was definitely powerful for her and had a huge impact on her life and business. And this book was shared with me back in early 2006. It was February. I actually got the book, and then I was invited to a Science of Getting Rich seminar that was taught by a coach and facilitator for Bob Proctor. I don't know if you've heard of Bob Proctor or not. Many of you probably have, maybe a few of you haven't. But Bob Proctor's written his own book called You Were Born Rich. But Bob Proctor is actually heavily highlighted in the movie and the book, The Secret. Okay. Bob's going to actually be turning 87 this July. And he started in the personal development field learning back when he was just before he was turned 27. So you're looking at, he's been in the personal development field. It took him, he went from earning listen to this, he went from earning $4,000 a year. Now you got to go back far when he did that. He's 87 now. This was back when he was 26. He was earning $4,000 a year. Within a year of actually finding a mentor and trainer and doing what that person said, that mentor, trainer, coach, Bob worked with that person. His income went from $4,000 a year to $15,000 a month. Within 3 years, he was up over $1 million a year. So, and then he's just grown ever since. Okay. But Bob Proctor became successful, but he wanted to learn how to teach people better. So he went to work with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant at the Nightingale Conant Corporation. And that's where this book, The Science of Getting Rich, was shared with Bob. It was so impactful for Bob when he became independent of Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant, started his own company later on, training people in the law of attraction and how the mind works. One of the seminars he created was out of this material, and that was the seminar that impacted me. With me, what ended up happening is I went to that seminar. I got some additional self-study material, and I also kept a relationship with the person who taught the seminar, Leslie Householder, because we lived in the same city. And basically, she became kind of a coach of mine at the time. And within, let's see, this was mid-February of 06. By the time March 31st had rolled around, it was the last day I had my job. By April 1st, I was 100% independent. And so for January, February, March, my income from my job and the previous 2-3 years was about $5,000 to $6,000 a month. Obviously, I took a little rolling time in the month of April, but by the time May through the rest of the year, 8 months had rolled around, I had earned $400,000 for the rest of the year. So I divided that by 8, which averaged out to 50. Now it wasn't just $50,000 a month. I had a month where I had $88,000. I had a month where I had 30-something thousand. But when I took that average over that 8-month period for the rest of the year, it turned out to be $50,000 a month. So I looked at that and I'm like, that is amazing. But I had reprogrammed myself. I had learned about the law of attraction, But more than just understanding that, I went through a reprogramming process at the subconscious level to allow myself to earn and receive more into my life. I focused on a lifestyle I wanted to live. I didn't set a goal to earn $50,000. I actually reprogrammed myself for lifestyle. When I had my job, like I said, I was earning 5 to 6 grand a month. Okay, that was paying the bills, but not much more. But I was working 50, 60 hours a week. That's probably common for a lot of you guys. Okay. But what ended up happening is I didn't want to work that many hours. I wanted to be with my family more. So not only did I reprogram myself, well, I reprogrammed myself for lifestyle. And so I needed a certain amount of money to live that lifestyle, and I needed a certain amount of time. I didn't set the goal for the amount of time. I didn't set the goal for the amount of money. But here's ultimately what happened. Yes, my income averaged $50,000 the next 8 months of that year. But what's even more important, or at least it was to me, instead of working 50, 60 hours a week, my work weeks went down to 15 to 20 hours. So essentially, my work week decreased by 2/3 and my income rose by 8.5-ish times per month. Not bad, right? So anyhow, ever since then, I've only been working for myself. I've had multiple businesses. I've been a business consultant. 2 years ago, Bob Proctor's organization contacted me and said, "Hey, we heard about you. We know you've gone through material and years ago and whatnot, and you've had successes. Bob wants to know if you would be interested in being a coach for his material." So I took that opportunity to learn the coaching process, took that opportunity to learn more about some of his material, became a coach for Bob Proctor's organization, and did that for about a year and a half-ish, not quite a year and a half, and found out that, you know what, I can do pretty well independently too. So I'm still friends with Bob and his organization, but I'm independent now. Still have lots of friends that are actually coaches and trainers and whatnot for Bob and his team that I keep in touch with. I even mastermind with several of them. So it's a pretty awesome experience. I wanted to share that with you because I want you to understand that you might be thinking we're just reading a book right now. I'm going to do some reading, but I'm also going to share some commentary as we go through this. And this is why I wanted to start, though, with this book. This book is one that can have a huge impact. And if you get some additional help to go along with it, the book, like I did, who knows what can happen for you for the rest of this year. So it could be pretty awesome. But I wanted to tell you why this particular piece of literature that was published so long ago in 1910 is what we're starting with, and why it might be important for you to pay attention, and also to come back each day, not just to go through reading some of the book, but tearing it apart and discussing it and answering questions and sharing whatever it is that we're learning. This isn't the only thing we're going to do. After this, we'll continue on into different things. Sometimes it might be an additional book. Sometimes it might be something else. Okay. I've done this now and have trained a lot of people and have done so successfully. I'm not doing exactly what I do as a coach as we go through this, right? That's my profession. I get paid for that. But I am going to give you enough content, okay, that you should be able to pick up on a lot of things and maybe run with it. Maybe you want additional help in the future, and I can offer that. But understand there are people that went through that process with me over that 3.5 months. Interestingly enough, several of those people, I've got responses and testimonials saying, "Hey, here's some things I learned, not just from what we were going through, but from the questions and answers and essentially the coaching you kind of did with individuals when they were asking those questions." Okay. So stick with me here. We're going to go through this, and then we're going to leave about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for you to share what you want to share and ask the questions that you want to ask. Okay. So I'm just going to hop in where we left off yesterday. Is opportunity monopolized? I'm going to blow it up one more size here. Fill in a little more of the screen for you guys. Okay. Is opportunity monopolized? No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any of the great railroad systems. Now remember, this was published again in 1910, right? Things are a little bit different today, but he's talking about things that were going on at his time. And the railroad systems were pretty much a monopoly, okay? That field is pretty well monopolized, but the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of scope for enterprise. And it will be but a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry. And in all its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands and perhaps to millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of trying to competing with J.J. Hill and others for a chance in the steam railway world? It is quite true that if you're a workman in the ploy of the Steel Trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it is also true that if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the Steel Trust. You can buy a farm of from 10 to 40 acres and engage in business as a producer of foodstuffs. There's great opportunity at this time for men who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get the land, but I'm going to prove to you that it is not impossible and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in a certain way. So what do we mean by in a certain way? You're going to hear this a lot. He's going to go explain more eventually, but let me tell you what is in a certain way means just briefly, okay? It means two different things, okay? It means that you are obeying of the laws of the universe that relate to you manifesting more money and wealth in your life. You actually have to follow those laws and obey them. And you may or may not know that you are disobeying those laws, not on purpose, but accidentally. Think of a little child. If he were to crawl on the floor over to, let's say, a kind of a bench up by the counter where the sink is and everything, and he's able to get up onto he crawls, he's able to climb up onto this chair, and then he's able to climb up onto this counter. And then the child goes crawling across this big granite countertop. So picture a big island type countertop. And this little child goes crawling and crawling and crawling, eventually gets to the end, but doesn't stop crawling. Okay. If this child gets to the end, but doesn't stop crawling, what's going to happen? The child's going to fall off. That's what's going to happen. And when the child falls off, the child's going to get hurt. Well, is the child an innocent child? Absolutely. Did the child intend to hurt himself? Absolutely not. But did he hurt himself just the same? Absolutely. Why? Because there was a law of gravity that the child disobeyed and as a result got hurt. You are probably disobeying laws out there that govern you having more money and wealth in your life. And as a result, you're not getting what you want. So you're not doing things in a certain way. The other part of it is too, you may have studied and learned and you know the laws and you're starting to, feel your progression, you're learning about law of attraction, but you have one other problem about the certain way. You have subconscious programming that is in opposition to you actually getting what you want out of life. So you set a goal, you set an intention, you decide you want something, but it seems like every time you're trying to do it, something sabotages. Something outside sabotages, or you self-sabotage your success. Why does that happen? Because of subconscious programming. But that can be changed too. So you can learn the laws, you can reprogram yourself subconsciously. That's what I did over that period of time I was talking about. And then my life changed, right? I worked 2/3 less hours and I made 8.5 times more money per month. Okay. So it can be dramatic. And it's because of how I reprogram myself, and you could do the same thing. All right. But that's what being a certain way is that your subconscious is aligned and you're obeying the laws that govern the acquisition of wealth and money in your life, then you will get what you want. Okay. By the way, if you're typing things into chat, I apologize, but I'm not paying attention to it right now because that'll interrupt what we're doing. I will take questions, like I said, the last 10, 15 minutes and give you a chance to comment, and I'll answer questions for you. And we'll actually come off mute and talk to each other, okay? But if you're typing things into chat, wanting to get my attention so I answer those questions, then I'm kind of ignoring the other 13, 14 people on here. and I want to make sure I get through a certain amount of material, and then we have a certain amount of time for our discussion and Q&A and stuff like that. Okay. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution which has been reached. At present, in America, it is setting toward agriculture and the allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory worker in his line. It is open before the businessman who supplies the farmer more than before the one who supplies the factory worker, and before the professional man who waits upon the farmer more than before the one who serves the working class. There's an abundance of opportunity for the man who will go with the tide instead of against trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They're not being ground by the trust and combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. If the workers of America choose to do so, they could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries and establish great department stores and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office and pass laws favoring the development of such cooperative industries. And in a few years, they could take peaceable possession of the industrial field. The working class may become the master class whenever they will begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. The individual worker, however, is not held down by the ignorance or the mental slothfulness of his class. He can follow the tide of opportunity to riches, and this book will tell him how. No one is kept in poverty by shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A palace as large as the Capitol at Washington might be built for every family on earth from the building material in the United States alone. And under intensive cultivation, this country would produce wool, cotton, linen, and silk, enough to clothe each person in the world finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory, together with food enough to feed them all luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance, out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and older ones are dissolving, but all are shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance. The universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in making the universe. The space in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance. So what is the original substance that we keep talking about with the formless stuff, right? Formless stuff, original substance. From a scientific word, you could call it matter or energy. Okay, when you break down what everything is, the hat that I'm wearing, the water bottle I'm drinking out of, the shirt I'm wearing, even the skin on my body is all made out of matter. It's made out of energy. Okay, it's just in a different form. But if you take a magnifying glass and look at each one of these things and break it down to its smallest part, everything is made out of the same thing. Okay, this formless stuff or original substance. With the rock, let's see. So let's go back to the universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in the making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance, with the formless stuff, with the raw materials of all things. 10,000 times as much as has been made might still be made. And even then, we should not have exhausted the supply of universal raw material. No man, therefore, is poor because nature is poor, or because there's not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building material is exhausted, More will be produced when the soil is exhausted so that foodstuffs and materials for clothing will no longer grow upon it. It will be renewed, or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, if man is still in such stage of social development that he needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. The formless stuff responds to the needs of man, and it will not let him be without any good thing. This is true of man collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, okay, it's because they do not follow the certain way of doing things, which makes the individual man rich. In other words, they're somehow disobeying the laws that relate to attracting more money and wealth in their life, and or they have subconscious programming that is in opposition to what it is that they're trying to attract. Okay. The formless stuff is intelligent. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive, and it is always impelled toward more life. It is the natural inherent impulse of life to seek to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself, and of consciousness to seek to extend its boundaries and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its impelling motive is the increase of life. For this cause, everything which can possibly minister to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict himself and nullify his own works. You're not kept poor by lack in the supply of riches. It is a fact, which I shall demonstrate a little farther on, that even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way. Okay. So we are going to, at this point, so what we've done so far over the last 3 days or so has kind of gotten into somewhat of an introduction, all right? Now we're going to get into the meat of what's going on. However, I said that I promised that I would give us some time, usually about 10 to 15 minutes. So that's right about now, so that we can have questions and answers. And so you guys can share what you want to share. So we're going to switch modes of what we're doing right now and give you guys the opportunity to do that. Let's see here. If I'm not going to go into chat right now and see all the things that were chatted, okay, I'll see them at the very end. If you had a question for me that was in relationship to something that you would, like answered, other than, hey, how do you find this page, that, or whatever, let me do this. Some of you have jumped on, I can tell, after we got started, and just point out to something really quick to you. That way you know where you can actually find a copy of today's, not the book, but I'm going to show you a Facebook group that we have right here. And right here, recordings. Well, what's the recording of? Basically, as long as I remember to hit record, I take these Zoom meetings, and within 24 to 48 hours, I post them into our Facebook group. So you're allowed to come join our Facebook group. Okay, matter of fact, encourage you to do that. Excuse me, it has the same name that we have for the meetups, which is Live Law of Attraction, Money, Wealth, and Success Training. And I'm going to copy the URL here really quick, and I am going to go into chat, and I am going to share the link with all of you right now. Before the meeting's over, make sure you click on it, because once the meeting's over, you won't be able to click on it just by watching the video. But click on it, and then you can go ahead and join the Facebook group. All right. Then you can have access, and anything that you missed, you can get yourself caught up on. All right. So here's how this is going to function now for the questions and answers. What is it that's appropriate to comment about? Here's what we would like to hear. Anything in relationship to what we just went through today. You definitely comment on that. Anything you might have learned, any ahas or whatnot. If you've been with us the last couple of days, either 1 or 2 days, You can comment on anything related to what it was that we went through over the last couple of days. The other thing that would be great for you to share would be any positive experiences you've had in relationship to utilizing the law of attraction intentionally, where you attracted more money and wealth into your life. Another thing that would be good is, even though it's not necessarily money or wealth, is let's say that you've utilized the law of attraction successfully to and intentionally to attract anything else in your life that you wanted. That would be cool for you to share too. All right. What are appropriate questions? Appropriate questions would be that this type of question would be something in relationship to, again, what we went over today, to clarify what it is that you're wanting to learn, or anything we've gone over the past couple of days. The other questions that would be appropriate, which I'm totally cool with, is anything in relationship to manifesting more money and wealth in your life. Okay. So what we do at this point, if you would like to make a comment or you'd like to ask a question, is do this. Just come off mute and start sharing whatever it is that you would like to share, asking whatever you'd like to ask, and we'll take you in the order you do that. If two of you jump on at the same time, we'll try and figure out who went first, and then the next person can go. But now is your time to actually, do this and utilize me. I've got a lot of experience with this and happy to help you while I'm here. So this is your opportunity to share what you want to share or ask what you want to ask. Just come off of mute and go ahead and do so.
Hey, Kevin, it's John Ward.
Hey, John.
Hi, everyone. The only thing I wanted to add was, this is my third day of listening in to Kevin at noontime, wherever you are. But I was introduced to this book through like a mastermind group that I was invited to probably within the last 5 or 6 years. And I didn't continue with the group. And I can tell you that at the beginning, I wasn't ready for this book. Though you'd think I was, because, I was in my 50s. So, God, I had lived enough and I hadn't learned these lessons, but I just encourage people to try to stick with it, maybe read it multiple times. I haven't finished reading it myself, but I'm already in page 27 and I'm getting it a lot better than I did 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm starting to see where he's coming from. Maybe it's because I'm ready, but I think maybe just pressing it upon yourself in your mind over and over, it may come to you sooner than it came to me.
Thank you. You're right. When the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And the other thing that I found with myself, which maybe you did, you were in part of a discussion, but my introduction was pretty heavy in the sense of, okay, here's the book. Okay, cool. But here's a 3-day seminar. So I went through the 3-day seminar with that through somebody who was trained by Bob Proctor to teach that. And then after that 3 days, I was like, mind blown. Okay. But I knew that wasn't enough. Intellectually, and I'm feeling things and whatever, but I know that I've got, because I also learned too about the programming I had going on with me. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to understand laws of the universe, recognizing that if I've been striving all these years for particular things and they have not shown up, and I've put forth effort to try and do it, then I have a program in opposition to what I want, and I've got to change that. How do I go about changing it? So I went through that process and I was pretty intent about it. It's different for other people, but I put 2 to 3 hours a day going forward for the next 2.5 months. Most people won't do that. Okay, but I did. But what I bumped out of as a result of that was I decided what life I really wanted to live and program myself for lifestyle, not for a dollar figure. Matter of fact, if you try and program yourself for a dollar figure, you will usually fail. Because the brain doesn't function, and God and the universe could care less about money in that sense. The brain doesn't know. If you're used to making a certain amount of money and you've never truly experienced beyond that, it's just not real yet, right? So I had to figure out and learn how to make it real before it was real. But once it became accepted as real and normal subconsciously, then my subconscious got out of the way, not actually better than got out of the way. think of it as a football player. He became my blocker. Everything that got in the way, it just bowled over while I was running behind it. Bam, 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 any obstacles or whatever. It's like, I'll fix that. I'll help that. Okay, well, we'll do that. And then my subconscious, I couldn't help but succeed at that time, but I didn't know how dramatic. I mean, 5, 6 grand a month. Okay, that was my income, but you're talking less than 3 months. And for the 8 months following, you're talking $400,000, right? And 67 or 50, 60 hours a week at work. Now I'm working 15. I'm really stretching, to be honest with you, when I say 20, but I want to pick a number maybe a little bit higher, because I've had 5 and 10 hour weeks and made that kind of money. So since then, right? Because it's not about how many hours you work, it's about your subconscious program. And it's the same reason why somebody who is wealthy, if they kind of struggle for a little bit, can get back there if they're subconsciously programmed right. If they became successful but didn't change their subconscious at the same time, your subconscious is going to bring you back to where you were at some point. If you are currently making $60,000 a year and you set a goal to hit 100 and you make 80 or 90, but you haven't changed your subconscious programming at the same time, you'll probably be back at 60 next year. Or what's even worse, you might be at 40 next year, because your subconscious is going to go even it out for you. It's going to take, because that's what's normal for you. So it's going to even it out. So you have to reprogram yourself. You have to obey the laws and you have to reprogram yourself. But if you do the two collectively, that'll work. Obviously, I'm a coach, so I recommend you have somebody coach you, because they will see, well, myself, that's my specialty, is around money blocks. Okay. I'll help you with your blind spots that you won't see. I in a group coaching, I was talking to her, and she had all these things that weren't quite going right. She had made hundreds of thousands of dollars in her, businesses and whatnot, but now it wasn't really coming in. And we figured out what was messed up. And then boom, this person, here's the 9 grand I owe you. Here's the business that was paying slow, that was always good in the past. Boom, here's all the money we owe you. It's just boom, 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 boom. She had a subconscious program that she was actually trying to do things in opposition to what God would want her to. And I call play God for other people. Once she quit trying to play God and let God be God, and God in the universe, but get out of the way of what she was trying to do and control, it all flowed back in. And she's like, that's just crazy. It literally happened in less than a month. Right. But she wouldn't have ever recognized that, because the thing she was actually doing looked like she was helping other people. And logically, it looked like she was taking money that she had and basically paying for this person's life and doing this for this person. And these people weren't growing and progressing because she was playing God instead. And she was a cancer survivor. She did the same thing years ago, didn't know any better, almost died, but found out she has this pattern. And she wouldn't have ever recognized the pattern without a coach. You're not going to read The Science of Getting Rich and go, oh, I got that pattern. But we recognized the pattern together. It opened up, and now her 2 different businesses are prospering. Again, people are paying like they're supposed to. And she's just like, I've learned a lot, but I wouldn't have ever known that what I thought was good, because I'm helping this person. They were living in my house, essentially in my basement, rent free for the last 2 years, that were capable, but they had hard times. And she's helping everybody with hard times and spending her time only with people with hard times. And so her subconscious said, okay, anything, you're going to have hard times too. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. The
Yeah.
one thing I love to hear was that you immersed yourself in it for 2.5 hours a day for a few months, because that is typically in our heads that we're wasting our time. We should be doing other things. But it seems like getting this right is probably the most important thing you could do first. It's the foundation. So I'm just starting to really, really get that.
Yeah.
Essence.
We want to take massive action too fast. Now you can't sit there in the lotus position and hum either. That's not going to work. Okay. You're going to be guided by God in the universe to take action. A lot of times things that you would have ever thought of on your own, things that you've never done before that are going to sound really uncomfortable only because you're not familiar with it. They know you're going to succeed with it. They'll help you with it. And you're going to have your subconscious program be in opposition to it because it doesn't want you to change. But if you follow through with what God and the universe tells you to do, it will work out. And now the subconscious goes, oh, that's what what become the subconscious will help you do whatever it thinks is normal. Okay, it has two purposes. One, keep you alive, and another to help you master things so that you can do them at a subconscious level, and it's going to master what's normal. I did this yesterday, so I know some of you are here from yesterday, but let me do this just again really quick. I'll just pick randomly. What's 7 times 6? Right? What's 3 times 8? What's 5 times 5?
25.
Okay, but what's 367 times 1282? It's doable. We can do that. We can write it on a piece of paper. We can pull out we can come up with the answer, but it's not a subconscious program like the times tables up to about 12 times 12. Why? Because they were repeated often enough that even at a young age, it became subconscious for us. And now at age, I'm 52, we're all different ages here. But now at age 52, if somebody spits it out and they keep it within the small enough range, boom, 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 right? Or it takes a second, oh, what, oh, and then bam. But then if you keep repeating it, it's boom, 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 boom. But you take the bigger numbers, yes, I know how to multiply. I'd have to take out a piece of paper, or I'd have to try and, in my head, draw a chart and put it on the chart and do the math in my head and eventually come out with it. But that's a subconscious program. That's what the subconscious is there for. So you don't have to think about that every time you do it. Same thing with tying your shoes, right? When you first start doing it, you watch the little kid, but eventually it becomes subconscious, so you don't have to think about it. So we were designed to be kept safe, and the subconscious was designed to help us master something and put it on autopilot. To take a program in and run that program as our habits. Here's the problem with that. The definition of what's normal, based upon not my definition, Kevin's, but the subconscious mind definition. What's the subconscious mind's definition? What's normal for you? Huh? What's that mean? Whatever you've allowed to become in there that's been either repetitive or came in through some strong emotional experience that is now a program in your subconscious, that's what it thinks is normal. It's what you've allowed to happen. It's what you let come in, whether you were a little kid or not, and you didn't have much control over it because you were just like this cup that was being filled up without a lid on it. Okay. But once it's in there, you got a problem, because what if what your program is what's normal for you is you're in abusive relationships all the time, right? Well, is that very safe? Is that going to help you? Because your subconscious wants to keep you, alive and safe and protected. And based upon that, it decides what is the definition of that, what's normal for you. Well, are you safe and protected by your subconscious if you're being abused physically by somebody constantly? No. So why is your subconscious let it happen? Because it's normal for you. Its definition of safe is normal. If your subconscious mind believes that it's normal for you to be wealthy and live a certain lifestyle, then it thinks that's the safest thing for you. So it goes and makes sure that that's what happens for you. Pretty cool stuff. Do we have any other questions or comments right now?
So do you have to master meditation or something in order for all this to happen? I mean,
No. You need to do some type of meditation and visualization, but you don't have to become a master at it. No, everybody's capable. Anything, if you were able to pretend anything as a little kid, if I'm not saying you do that on a daily basis, but you do have memories of it. Whatever power you had as a little kid, if you bring that power back, but you add intention behind it and do a few other things, that's actually what it takes to make this work. but you don't have to become a master of meditation. No, I would, if I put myself on a scale of meditation master on a scale of 1 to 10, and I've been doing this since 2006, early 2006, I'd put myself at a 4, maybe. I'm not someone who, I spend time purposely doing things and meditating, but it's not maybe what you're thinking. It's definitely what you can do, anybody can do. So it's not difficult, and it's fun, but it might take you a while to believe it, but over time you will in the process. And again, like John pointed out, I took some specific, I purposely took time. I didn't sit there and meditate for 2.5, 3 hours a day. Okay. I took a lot of that time was spent learning how the laws worked, but I did go spend probably 30 minutes or more a day in visualizing what I wanted, not all in just, I didn't just take one sitting for 30 minutes. I did 10 to 15 right when I woke up. I did 10 to 15 right before I went to bed, and probably somewhere in the middle of the day, I might have taken 10 to 15 minutes. Does that help answer your question, Monica?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the time is done right now. I'm not going to hold anybody hostage. You got the meat of what we were doing, but I'll stick around another few minutes if anybody wants to ask any additional questions or need some help with something. But again, not holding anybody hostage. You don't have to think, hey, if I come on every day to this 45-minute class, why does it always run an hour or whatever? It doesn't. I just have the ability to help and want to help. And if I've got the time to do it, I will. But if you need to go, that's okay. If you want to stay and listen and or ask any questions, you're welcome to do that too. Anybody have any additional comments or questions? I'm here for you if you like right now.
Hi, this is Lily. I
Hi,
apologize.
Lily.
I came late because I was in a meeting. So my question for you is how to avoid the negative thoughts. And if you already explained about this, I apologize.
Okay, I didn't explain it. So that's fine. Thank you, Lily. The answer to that is actually in the question, right? Anything you're focusing on is what you're doing. So if you're trying to avoid something, what are you focused on? The thing you're trying to avoid, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it if you think about it in that way. So what you want to do is you just want to recognize when you aren't feeling good about something. You'll know by your feelings. And if something doesn't feel good, whatever it is you're thinking at that time, what you're usually thinking about is, I don't want this, right? Because that's why you feel bad. You're thinking about what you don't want. Well, that's perfect because that gives you contrast, right? Let's say, for instance, I'm not saying this is your situation, I'm just using it for instance, right? Let's say that what you're thinking about is next month's rent, right? Today, we're the 27th or something. And let's say next month's rent's coming up in 3 days or whatever it is, and you're a little bit short on rent today, okay, for that time, and you haven't figured out how to cover the difference, whatever that amount is. So that doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to not know how you're going to pay that. But what you're thinking about is not being able to pay it, which is exactly what you don't want. So what do you want to do? Anytime you say to yourself, well, I don't want, I don't want, I don't want, I don't like, I don't like, I don't like, and that's bringing a feeling to you, then you know the opposite is what you want. Okay. So I don't want to be late with my rent, or I don't want to not be able to pay my rent. Okay, great. Then I need to change my thought. I call it pivoting. Pivot my thought to, then what do I want? Well, what I want is to be able to pay my rent on time. I want to be able to pay my rent in full, right? Now, I'm not telling you right at that moment you're going to know how to do it, but you're switching to trying to find a solution and focusing on what you do want. And then what I would do is take some time, maybe close my eyes and imagine myself handing that check to whoever I hand that to. And I imagine myself paying my rent on time, even though I don't know how to do it in the next 3 days. I haven't figured out how to come up with the difference. And there's more training on how to, manifest and whatnot. But you asked me about thoughts. So that's what I'm just giving an example to help you understand that any thought you have that you don't want, then what you want is the opposite of that thought. How do you know if it's a thought you do or don't want? Well, how do you feel? I feel crappy. Well, then you don't want that thought. Well, what is that thought? Don't focus on it. I'm mad at somebody. Okay, great. Then what is, well, I don't want to be mad. Okay, great. So I want to be happy. Cool. Do you have to be happy with that person? Not necessarily, but go think about something that makes you happy if you're thinking about something that's making you mad, right? You
Yeah.
Again, pivot, just flip it around to the other side. And anytime you start to say, I don't want, I don't like, stop yourself and say the opposite. Say the opposite in your mind, and potentially, if necessary or appropriate, say it out loud. Does that help, Lily?
Oh, yeah. Makes total sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask about the 300 list from our first session.
Okay.
So I started working on mine.
Awesome.
But I wanted to find out if there are any other recommendation or any other things that we can do since we're meeting daily.
I'm going to give you guys a really short book. Okay. I may or may not. It's one that you can read in 13 minutes. That's why I say short. 13, 14 minutes. You can listen to it and or read it. Okay. If you guys are taking notes somewhere, or you can, here's what I'd like you guys to write down. Write down It Works book and type that into Google, and you'll find a free copy for sure. Go to YouTube, type in It Works book, and what you'll find is somebody is going to read it to you. You're going to find an audio version. You'll find plenty of them. Okay. Just go with the one whose voice you like. What is It Works? It Works is a book written a long time ago. Another one, a type of that, but it's very short. Again, it can be written and read in 13 to 14 minutes. How do I know that? Because that's how long the audiobook is. Plus, I've read it a million times. Well, maybe that's a total exaggeration. I've read it hundreds of times though. Okay. But what is it? It's essentially the law of attraction in Reader's Digest form. You know what I mean by that? It's a sum. It tells you the very, very, very basics. And what he's going to suggest that you do in that book is going to actually work really well with what Steve Harvey said. Steve Harvey said, write 300 things down, right? By the way, how many have you gotten to?
I had actually started my list without knowing that I had a list in January. So
okay.
On that list, I had 70 something without knowing that I had done it.
Okay.
So I just basically said, let me start over. So
Okay.
right now I'm at, 27.
Okay. Funny that you stopped almost at 70 there, and Steve Harvey said you'll
Yeah.
probably,
I got to keep going.
Right? Right. So definitely complete it. But once you've completed it, take It Works, read it and or listen to it. Because again, you'll find somebody 13, 14 minutes, they'll read it to you. But I would maybe even do both. But reading it is going to be a little more powerful than just listening to it, because you have to pay a little more attention when you read something versus listening. But do it over and over again, which is important. But he's going to suggest that you write things down also. He's not going to tell you 300, but what he's going to suggest is take what you've written down and put them in an order. Now, I would not try to take 300 things and put them in order of importance 1 through 300. I would take what you believe might be the top 15 or 20 and then put them in the order of what's most important. And that's the key, what's most important, not what you think someone else is important. It's what's most important to you. Somebody might say, well, this is what's most important in the world. That, I know this is going to sound silly. A particular pair of shoes could be most important to you, and somebody else will judge and say, well, feeding the world, it should be what's most important. You have to do it in what's actually truly in your heart most important to you, and because that's going to change over time anyway. As you receive something, you'll end up replacing things on your list anyway. So don't worry about that. If you want something, that's the only criteria. to decide if do you want it, that's or would you like to have it? That's the only criteria to get those 300 things on your list. That doesn't mean all 300 things you're going to like focus and set goals and all this for all 300, but you're going to end up with what Steve Harvey said. It's amazing. I did the same exercise after I knew this stuff. Okay. I did the same exercise, and what ended up happening for me, I had a business partner, or somebody who became a business partner. Well, actually, he had been somebody who was a business partner. We'd worked together for a couple of years on some things. We weren't like, it wasn't a business that we both worked on together every day. It was something though that we collaborated on. That's why I say business partner. But we also had separate business things that we did too. But I remember I found a car. It wasn't one that I wanted really bad. I got a hat here. I like cars. Okay. I like Porsches. I like German cars. I like Italian cars. And I've had some. But what happened was I had seen a car of a particular BMW, and when it first came out, and it was something I wrote down, but I didn't put a lot of energy into it because what I really, Ferrari, Porsche was I wanted. But I had this car. But what I did is I wrote it on my 300 list, and I liked it. So I spent the time thinking about it, and I pictured myself kind of drive, but I let it go. I didn't like try and make it a goal, right? Well, this particular partner, without us even talking about it, he had no idea I had this thing on my list. He went out, came back one day, and he had bought the car. He didn't even know anything about the car. Not only did he buy the car, he bought the car. It was the same color. It was, everything about it was exactly the same. That was the one that I had seen. I still didn't say anything other than love the car and everything. I didn't say, hey, I wrote it down, or that's what I didn't say any of that. And after about 3 months of him having the car, he came to me and he said, you know what, Kevin? He goes, I don't know why, but this car just doesn't feel like it's mine. It feels like you. He goes, and I just went out yesterday and bought a Prius. He goes, no, I didn't sell this car or whatever, but he goes, tell you what, if you'll take care of the maintenance on it for now, just gas or whatever, if you can have it and drive it as much as you want. Okay. He didn't get me a Prius. He gave me the $130,000 car while he went out and bought the $30,000 car. And I didn't have to go out and make money to buy it and all this other stuff. It was given to me because it was on my list, and I didn't have a program in opposition to it. So he went out and got it for me. It didn't happen like it was a time I'd written it down. It was a couple year span before he became my partner, but he went out one day, bought the car, and then 3 months later basically said, here, it's yours. And for the next 9 months, I drove it around. So do the 300 list. Remember when he said, I guarantee you about 10% will come off? I had another one like that was on the list that was to fly in a private plane. And within a few months of putting it on there, I got invited by somebody to go look at some real estate investing things he did. And he met me at the private airport and took me out in his plane, and we went and looked at it. I didn't even know how that one was I didn't know how either of those, the car I could have gone and bought, okay? The airplane, maybe not so much, at least not yet at the time. The car I could have, the airplane I couldn't. But the car wasn't something I was going to buy because I had other cars I like, that were even more important to me that I thought. But it was cool to get something in it, that most people, I found it to be very nice. And most people would find that car to be very nice. Most people don't just walk away and give you their $130,000 car. Yeah. All right. So from a time perspective, if there's any burning questions somebody wants to ask, because it's like, I'm not going to sleep good tonight unless Kevin answers that question, I'll go ahead and try and answer it for you right now. But if you don't have any additional questions, we'll call it a day and come back tomorrow. So anybody have anything that really, it's like, I really would like to know right now?
I have a question for you, Kevin.
Okay. Yes, Andrew.
Okay, so about reprogramming the subconscious, like subconscious mind. I've been focusing on that for a while now, for a good while. You know, I know it's something that, you know, they say you have to do repetitiously over time. You know, they have it to where you can do it while you're sleeping, like the sleep meditations and things like that. What did you suggest would be the best way to go about that?
The very first thing that everybody should do before you get into all this, let's reprogram myself, is decide 100% what you want your life to be like so that you reprogram yourself for the right thing. That would be the first
Okay.
thing. And very few people will do that. Very few people will do what Steve Harvey said to go do. They just won't. They'll start, they'll stop, the blah, 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 right? And your subconscious mind's going to try and stop you because it thinks change equals danger because it's not normal. You're trying to do or become something that's different for you. So I'm not avoiding your question. What I'm trying to do is put you in the right order of doing things, okay? But what most people try and do with law of attraction is they're trying to change their way of thinking a bit. And you know what? You will have some successes. And I bet you a bunch of you guys have had these successes. Like when you watch the movie The Secret or read the book, they say, hey, visualize somebody giving you, do something easy. Picture a cup of coffee, right? Picture this stone, picture this, that, or the other. Here's why they recommend you do, picture a parking spot, you know. Why do they tell you to do that? Is it harder for God to deliver that BMW to me than a cup of coffee? No. But if my subconscious says it is, not going to happen. All right, it won't happen. It's going to be in opposition and it's going to screw up the vibration. So what'll happen is people get excited, they watch The Secrets and things start manifesting. And some people will actually do well for a month or 2 or 3 or 6, and then they go into a slump. And they're like, I was doing really good with this law of attraction stuff. I was manifesting right and left everything I wanted. Well, you hadn't reprogrammed your subconscious mind. You had the excitement for a while, which overrode the subconscious a little bit, but then you slip back into what's pretty much normal. You hadn't changed your programming, and it brought you back to stasis. It was like a thermometer, and it brought you back down to where you were. And now you feel stuck, and then you're like, this doesn't really work out for me. I've tried for 2 years to change this, and you didn't do it. For lack of better, you didn't do it right. Okay, there's some things that aren't right and wrong in the process, and then there are some things that are right and wrong in the process. But once you know what you want, then your goal is to get your subconscious mind to accept it as normal. Okay. Once you know exactly what you want, your goal is to get your subconscious mind to accept it as normal. You will never out manifest your personal self-image. Let me repeat that. You will not out manifest your personal self-image. So you can want something, but if your subconscious image of yourself says that's BS, you won't get it. But if your subconscious actually goes, yeah, that's normal for you, it'll help move heaven and earth to make sure you have it. So the whole subliminal, go to, listen to something while you're sleeping and things like that. Yeah, there's some validity to it. But most of the reprogramming that you're going to do is you're going to be awake. And you might be in a slightly drowsy, like when you first get up in the morning, that's good, because at a subconscious level, you accept things a little better. Also, right before you go doze off to sleep, that's another good time. But you're still going to be in an awake state. And then the middle of the day, you'll calm yourself down a bit and you'll go there. But it's not just going to come in through headphone noise into your head or the thing sitting next to you. I'm not saying it won't a little bit, but the person that thinks that I'm going to play this audio in the background at night for the next 3 months and become a millionaire because it says I'm a millionaire, good luck. And by the way, your brain doesn't really know what being a millionaire means anyway, if you aren't one. And if you don't know any that are close to you, if you haven't experienced a millionaire, you won't be a millionaire. Because it just keeps repeating it. It doesn't know what a millionaire means. You could look at pictures and all this other stuff, but it's not emotional for you. But when it's positively emotional for you, and again, you can get your subconscious mind to accept that that is what's normal for you, then it will make sure that that's what happens. Does that help, Andrew?
Yeah, just be more clear on, you know, what you want. Like you said, write the list, be more clear on it, focus on it, and
Well, there's more to it than that, but yeah,
I'll
that's the
practice it.
start. You have to actually know what you want. And by the way, just that's why Steve Harvey, it's like write it all down first. And then the next process is go ahead and narrow it down. When Bob Proctor goes after something and what he's trained me to do too, I manifest many different things kind of simultaneously, but I only focus on like one at a time until it happens. And it builds faith because as you have some success, you now can point to the success that you've had and utilize that to help you have more faith in the next thing you're trying to do. All right,
Okay, that clears it up.
cool. Any last questions or comments before we go? Okie dokie. Well, I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys and gals tomorrow. I'll be here Monday through Friday to help you out. You all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.